This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. On the show today, you'll find out where book publishing is going and how to take advantage of it. How to identify and avoid publishing predators. What opportunities are emerging as the book trade evolves in new forms. How to avoid losing money and much, much more. Join us now as a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take the author to the next level of publishing. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. And now, here's your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Well, top of the publishing day to you. I have spent this last week doing all the proofing, making sure everything is just right for my 35th book, which is How to Avoid Book Publishing Blunders, Bloopers, and Boo-Boos. And I'm going to highly recommend it to you. You can go to Amazon, do the pre-orders. They'll be shipped out the first week of May. It's fun. It's 4-color throughout. You'll see the sheepy guys back doing a variety of things. And certainly on the cover, they are now in crutches, IVs, wheelchairs, broken arms, because they deal with the blunders, bloopers, and boo-boos that we all get along and seem to get entangled in through the publishing maze. I thought today is just going to be with me. I'm Judith Briles, your book shepherd, that I wanted to really look at some of the key elements that seem to be not just the common mishaps, but it's the naivete that brings us to us, our ignorance. We don't understand the vocabulary, the jargon, the words, and it leads us into trouble by not getting into that area. So I thought I would just kind of pretend that we're going to do a glossary almost of some of the most critical publishing terms that you need to know about from the get-go, from, kind of like an A to Z, not saying that we're going to hit every letter during our hour together, but let's just kind of hit on a few of the key things that I hear routinely from clients I work with, from conferences that I speak at, when I'm doing workshops, if they come up. One of them is called an add-on barcode, and this is something that you're going to put on the back cover of your book. So when I mean the back cover is in the lower section, the barcode that has your ISBN, that little 13-digit number that starts with 978. You have the capability of not only there's actually 3 elements that can go into this little slot. One is certainly your 978 number ISBN, which is a must-have. There's also you could step down a little bit, and it's to the right. There is an add-on barcode, and this barcode reflects the price of your book. And I'm going to encourage you to do that. Yes. I know if you're out and let's say your book goes for $22.95, but you're doing a special offering to everyone for $20. It doesn't matter. It's for bookstore purposes. And if you go into a traditional brick and mortar, and by the way, the buzz is out. Amazon's announced it. I don't know how it's going to come across, but they are going to be building brick and mortar stores across the country. So you want to make sure that you do not only the traditional barcode with the ISBN of 978, but also the add-on barcode that will be just a little bit lower to the right, because they can cut off, some of those widget areas, and be read by the scanners that will reflect your price. And it's always going to be a 5 digits. So if the price of your book is $1.95, for example, it would be 55195. If your book is $22.95, it would be 52295. And if it's $100, it would be 10000. All right, so that's how that would work. Now, the other thing that you can do, here's the third goodie you can add into above the barcode, and that's your categories. So if you're writing a mystery thriller, you could literally write mystery thriller. And who does this? All your book designer. They've got the capability, they've got the software, and 95% of all book designers I know at this point just include that in the cover design. So take advantage of it, make it easy for yourself, and it opens up all the windows to make sure it goes forward. Another common term that you will hear is something called advance, and I like to call it the elusive advance. Now, advances are something that publishers will pay, traditional publishers paid, or some of these hybrids now who are trying to look like traditional publishers will pay to an author to publish their work. In traditional publishing, the advance can range, from anywhere from a few $100, which I've seen, to mega thousands. And I had dinner with a publisher just over the weekend who actually, when we were talking about things we regretted, and don't we all have things we regretted, and he regretted signing a well-known celebrity for a $1 million advance, whose name is now all over the papers, quite in the dark shadow side, and he regrets that. And it was something that was done many years ago, but just that tie-in doesn't make him a happy camper. So an advance is something that a publisher will pay. You do not, traditionally, the way it used to be, you didn't have to pay it back. If the book did not earn out the advance, and the advance is often tied in to what a publisher believes that a book will minimally earn over their costs. So they have a little profit, or maybe a big profit, in there. Now, one of the things that you want to, if you're going down to the traditional publishing route, and let me say this to everyone, 50% of all books being published today are by the independent self-publishing arena, which is a fascinating growth when you think about it. If you have visions in your head of being published with a traditional publisher, then an advance will most likely be involved. It could be very nominal, or it could be nice and hefty. But here's one of the strings attached today's publishers are putting on it. Their expectations are that whatever you get, you are going to be taking those funds and using them to support your marketing. Caution, author beware, however we want to do, that traditional publishers do minimal in marketing. Now, to measure the skin they have in the game, the more they give you, the higher the level of support they will give you. So if you're someone who's coming in and you get a $5,000 or a $10,000 advance, expect a press release, and that's kind of it. Plus your book is created and it's available for distribution. But if it's going to be, your philosophy has to be, it's up to me. All right. So an advance. Here's what we're seeing some of these hybrid, the pay to publish operations doing. And I had quite an eye-opening conversation with an author who was being romance seduced, whatever we want to call. And he says, well, they're offering me advance. And I said, they don't pay advance. You pay them to publish. You got to buy at least 2,000 copies of their book, blah, blah, blah. And they said, no. And I finally sucked out of him what they had paid him, and it was $200. And the reason is they could say, we pay advances. Author beware, author beware, author beware. So an advance is a payment a publisher makes to an author prior, and it's paid prior. Typically, it was paid half on signing of the contract and the other half on the delivery by you of an acceptable manuscript that then they would go forward with and start doing their fine-tuning. We are seeing more and more now going a third on signing, a third, on acceptance of it, and the final third on the publication. I would caution you again, don't sign that contract. You get half and half, and leave it at that. Your advance is earned out against royalties, which means that you don't receive any additional payment until the advance is fully earned out. So if your advance was, say, $10,000, the royalties you would receive, and let's say your book was $10. It's just each one's a nose. It's so much easier. All right. Publishers pay royalties, which is another jargon term you need to understand. They pay royalties based on the book sales and based also on the price of the book. And they have now adjusted the royalty payment, which used to be in the old days when I started publishing on the full retail price. They are now based on the net amount received. So if you have a $10 book, traditionally the net is probably going to be around 45%. So it's $4.50. They will pay a royalty if it's a paper book of anywhere from 6 to 9%. It could be a little bit higher, but let's be really generous. Let's do another 10% so I can do easy math in my head. That means that the $10 retail payout net is $4.50. Royalty at 10% would be a fabulous 45 cents. If you get a advance of $10,000, do the math. How many books do you have to be sold to recoup that advance number? All right. And it takes a while. So understand those are terms to get in that arena. Now, another one is that is something called an ARC, and I've mentioned ARCs before. ARCs are also known as advanced reader copies, and you want to make sure that when you create an ARC, and why would you do that? For reviews, maybe possibly sending out for endorsements. You want to make sure that you have your book designer make just a special variation of the cover that puts advanced reader copy, not for sale, on the top. Otherwise, they're going to be all over Amazon and everything else on resale because that's what people do. You can also put it on the back cover copy. Traditionally, in advanced reader copies, the back cover is slightly modified. You may have your headline and a few bullets and little information, but at least a third of the back cover, the lower section, is dedicated to marketing strategies. What you're going to do, are you going to engage a publicist? Who is it? Etc. Because if you're sending out for the reviews with the major reviewers such as Library Journal, Kirkus, Publishers Weekly, Book Life, Forward Magazine, they want to know what you're doing. In fact, what they're interested in is what kind of skin are you putting in the game, because they're not interested in doing someone who is maybe they sell 100 copies. That's not where they're going to go. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to go along and move along into our alphabet soup jargon of things, words, concepts that you need to know in your publishing journey. I'm Judith Briles. It's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Give your book the best shot at getting buzz before it's even released. JKS Communications has been leading the book publicity industry for more than a decade. From producing some of the earliest book trailers to recently creating what Shelf Awareness calls the world's longest book tour, our team of publicists work tirelessly, smart, and with the goal of getting you the best attention possible. Our family of publicists come from journalism and publishing backgrounds with great experience and a passion for books. And our family of authors all across the globe are supportive of one another. We read your book and talk to you to understand your goals and lifestyle before sending you a proposal. We only represent books and authors that we believe in. Let's get going. Go online at jkscommunications.com.
Is there a book in you or another? AuthorU will show you how to create, develop, and publish your book without being hoodwinked. If you already have a book out, You'll find a supportive and brainstorming community that's connected and creative no matter where you live. AuthorU brings in national experts for its book camps and annual author extravaganza held each May. It has regular meetings and delivers webinars for its members on timely topics. Through AuthorU's extensive network, members enjoy exclusive benefits, including significant discounts for a variety of services necessary to publishing. The Resource, its online book publishing news magazine, is content-heavy and it's free. If you want to create a book that has pizzazz, punch, and panache, AuthorU is for you. If you're a hobbyist or a casual author, it's not. Join AuthorU today through its website at AuthorU.org. Follow AuthorU on Twitter at AuthorU and on Facebook at AuthorU, where timely author and publishing tips and articles are posted daily. AuthorU, where the author goes to become seriously successful.
First impressions are everything in the world of book publishing. Whether your book is an ebook, a print version, or both, your book cover needs to pop, sizzle, and sparkle to immediately capture the attention of your audience. And your book's interior needs to be just as dynamic and reflect the professionalism your readers demand. Nick Sellinger of NZ Graphics has won numerous national and international book awards for his cover designs and interior layouts. With over 20 years of experience in graphic design, he knows what it takes to create award-winning books and the many promotional pieces that authors need, such as posters, banners, postcards, one-sheets, business cards, logos, and more. Visit ncgraphics.com and see what authors and publishers have to say about their award-winning books and how NZ Graphics can make your book the success it was meant to be. That's nzgraphics.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Now, there are certainly a lot of other key terms that start with A, but I'm just going to move on because we're never going to get through some of the ones that I want to make sure you understand. Another common word that's used, especially if you are working with a bookstore, is the term called backlist. All right, backlist means an older book. It's been around. It's long in the tooth, or maybe we should say long in the pages. But publishers that issue new titles, say twice a year, may consider spring titles to be the backlist when their fall or winter titles of the previous year come along. Another term to know, and it's backlist, and then another term would be front list. All right, a front list is a newbie title. So you're young and you've just come out. And then another title, which is the title you want to have, is called evergreen. Now, here's what an evergreen title is. It's one that doesn't get long in the tooth or pages. It's one that has no dated material. So anything that has social media in it is going to get dated. It's got to be updated all the time. We're talking about one that doesn't have to go back and you have to review it every year to see, do I have to gussy it up? Do I have to delete things? Do I have to bring things? It just is evergreen. Fiction, by definition, is going to be evergreen in most cases, but it's the nonfiction that you've got to look at. So, like, for example, I used to write financial books. There's no way they can be evergreen because of the changes in tax law, in strategies, in investment opportunities. You know, they had a shelf life of just a couple of years. So understand that one. Now, another term, and this is something that is very important to understand for all authors, and I think that traditional publishers just do not pay attention to it the way it should. You, savvy author, if you are publishing your own, are going to pay close attention, and it's called the back matter. Traditionally, back matter was a bibliography. It could be an endnote section. It could be an appendices, and it could be an index. But I'm going to have you add in a couple of other goodies to it. Now, after your book is done, and when I work with authors on nonfiction books, I like them to, if they know another book's coming along, if they've got it through their head that books breed books, which I say often, that if another book is coming along and they already know what it is, why not announce it? Coming next year. And by the way, when you put out that you've got a book coming, do not put, because you're going to eat this, available September 1st, 2017. You're going to eat it. Much better to say fall of 2017. Fall is September to December. It gives you a lovely 3-month window that if you get delayed, if there's a snafu, if you have a printing hiccup, fill in the blank, that you're not wedded to a specific date in a specific month, period. So it just will save you a little bit. So I would tease and put on, and even if you have an idea of what your cover is going to look like. I know I'm going to be starting to put this in all my AuthorU mini guides. Since we now have 3 of them together, you should be announcing it and let people know, geez, there's this others that are, that are synergistic, that if I'm interested in this, I may be interested in the audiobook. I may be interested in the must-have book, which is going to be my next book after the Blunders and Blooper book. So let people know. Secondly, make sure that you have a good about the author page. Some books have about the author, some don't. Have that in there and let them know, how to connect with you. Give them a little bit personal information, far more, what you might be a joy to. Like, I will tell people, things that I love. Love food, love to cook, love movies, love certain TV shows, but I'll tell you what I'm addicted to. I'm addicted to books. So just get a little glimpse of that. And this is a must-have. If you do consulting, if you do speaking, if you are available for workshops, if you have any special events, let people know how to bring you to them. So if you speak, bring them to a group, association, organization. And maybe you call it How to Work with George, Samantha, Judith, fill in the blank. But make that a title. I'd have another different picture. By the way, I would put a picture on about the author. I'd put a different picture on how to work with you, maybe at work. And this expands on your expertise. And let them, how to connect with you if Skype is the way you do. I don't put Skype out publicly, my Skype address, because I only use Skype to work with my clients, my book shepherding clients. That's the only use I do. Plus my grandkids call me on it. But other than that, that's the only reason I don't want it available to the public. My email is in there. My phone number to call to have a direct conversation with me is in there. My website is in there. I put in and include my social media sites, like my Twitter, my Facebook, my LinkedIn. And if you create special groups, for heaven's sakes, put that on there for both Facebook and LinkedIn, which I would recommend that you do, especially nonfiction. For fiction, you can tie it in if you're genre specific in those areas. So back matter could be the secret sauce for you to open up to bring in more business as well as sell future books and those evergreen books that you have. For my fiction authors, I want to encourage you to include, even if you change it, a sample chapter to tease for your next book. And I would have, again, the working cover, knowing that all that can change. All right. So back matter is really important in that area. A couple of other items that you should know about, which is critical, is this whole thing called categories. And in the must-have book, I have got a section dealing with, and again, this book will not be ready till, maybe this year, but probably next year in the AuthorU mini guide series. But there's the BISAC, the BISAC, which comes from the Book Industry Study Group, BISAC, and it stands for Book Industry Standards and Communications. And it's the subject headings, and they're used to categorize all books, according to their subjects, and then to standardize the electronic transfer of that subject information between publishers and booksellers. All booksellers use it. Libraries and bookstores, retailers. That means also Amazon. Now, Amazon also has its own categories within those categories that you can dive down into. But understand that. So you can go to, and here's a website for you, BISG. B as in boy, I as in igloo, S as in Sam, G as in George, BISG.org. And you can then look up the categories and that you might fit into. And by the way, there's master categories, and then they subdivide down. For example, I write about publishing and writing in my books right now, and that there isn't a category, a key category called writing and publishing. There is a category called reference, and deep diving into that's where publishing and writing would go. So do a little homework here so you know where you're going. Now, another term that we get, and I've had several books go to print this week, and it is a word that's used with the designers and with the printers, and it's called bleed. So they always want to know when they're designing a book, whether it's cover or it's interior, if any of the art or graphics bleed into the gutter, bleed off the page. They want to know that because they will adjust their printing and recognize it that way. And if you, just a hint, caution, maybe this is a better caution, that if you use any graphics work or artwork that bleeds into the gutter, which is the interior margins of your book, if it bleeds into the gutter, that you may get, and you're doing a POD, a print on demand, that it's not uncommon for the robots of the CreateSpace and sometimes Ingram Spark. CreateSpace seems to be naughtier here, that they will pop up and they will come back and they will let you know that it's wrong. There's something wrong. It's messy, or whatever they do. The images are not acceptable. So you're going to have to duke it out and fight it, and you're going to have to insist on a chat call with them so they can get the robots off it to allow your artwork in. So we see that a lot of times. But bleeding is when an image or text extends over one or more edges of a page. Now, let me give you a hint. If you've got a skinny book, a thin book, that if you create a design, whether it's just at the top, a graphic that goes over, it might have your page number or your chapter number, or it could maybe going down to the edge that you just want it to pop a little bit for each chapter. If it bleeds over, it adds a little bulk to your book. It makes your book look a little bigger, even though it's all in the same paper. It just, because it's ink. And so it adds it there to that area. Publishers ask printers for quotes on a book with cover or text bleeds. They have to specify how many bleeds it will have. For example, it might say cover bleeds to one side, or cover bleeds all four sides. A full bleed image extends. That means it bleeds over all the edges, so there is no unprinted gutter or margin on the cover. Most printers require that artwork extend at least 1/8 of an inch. So that's when if you see what we call crop lines, that shows the printer where a page is supposed to end on the horizontal and the vertical crop, CROP lines, is that you will see them extend into them. That's the bleed on that. So with that, we're going to take another quick break. We'll come back with our jargon as we move along. I'm Judith Briles. It's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing, and our whole edition today is trying to unscramble some of the alphabet soup that you're going to get hit with as you move through your publishing journey. We'll be right back.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
Want to publish like a pro today? Well, then take a look at Ingram Spark, the only publishing platform that offers print and ebook services through a single source. Upload, edit, and manage titles all in one place. Take more control of printing costs with print on demand, and reach even more readers through one of the world's most extensive distribution networks. Built by independent publishers for independent publishers, Ingram Spark has everything you need to maximize your book's potential: color printing, ebook distribution, print on demand, global reach, and more. Start publishing with Ingram Spark today and see just how far your titles will go tomorrow. That's ingramspark.com.
Many of us have dreamed of writing a book.
Some of us even have.
Then the hard work starts.
You'll need an editor.
Who will design the cover or typeset the pages?
Who will format the ebook?
If you're a business owner, consultant, or coach with a serious message and expertise to share, the team of experts at 1106 Design can guide you through the maze.
They've helped more than 1,000 authors create top-quality books and avoid the not-so-reputable self-publishing companies.
Learn more at 1106design.com.
Then call Michelle at 602-866-3226. 1106 Design.
When Ned Thompson and Harry Shore started Thompson Shore in 1972, they believed employees with great character would make up the best company. They were right. They hired people who were not only experts in bookmaking, but who were obsessed with quality and delivering exceptional customer service. Almost 40 years later, Thompson Shore remains a 100% employee-owned company. Ned and Harry knew that successful customer projects are a direct result of empowered employees. We specialize in all books for large and small publishers. Creating beautiful and well-made books, we're dedicated to pleasing our customers by making the experience a good one from start to finish. The personal touch we have with our customers allows us to be innovative in solving their most difficult challenges. Our platform also ensures that we can remain flexible to meet our customers' unique needs and expectations. Our marketing kit can create buzz for your title, enhancing the promotion of your book during infancy. When you need to test the market to gauge your future sales, we can provide digitally printed books that will transition seamlessly into a larger offset run. From ebook to hard copy to delivery, our skillful customer service teams are at the ready to answer your most pressing question. At Thompson Shore, we know that making the highest quality books requires more than just best technologies. It requires superior customer service, professionalism to the trade, and commitment to environmental and social values. With these standards of excellence in place, you can be sure that we will always help you put your best book forward.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Another term that you're going to come up with your printer is going to be something called blue lines. It's going to be proofs. Could be called blues. Sometimes we used to, when we finally received them, this is what we're getting now today is almost galleys, the way printers deliver proofs. In the old days, they used to be blue. They used to be humongous. And it's the final one-color print on paper copy of a book or any other type of publication you're doing before it goes to the final press. And it's really the last chance you get to fix anything that needs fixing. So pay attention to them. Now, as I said, in the old days, they were loose sheets we used to get. Now, it's very common that, for example, one of our sponsors, Color House Graphics, when I get now what's called the blue lines from them, they are actually bound like the book. They have a bright goldy yellow binding, not duct tape, but like a binding, around it edge so I can see it, the shape of it, the feel of the book, but clearly it's not the kind of paper that we're going to be printing on. And it's stated on there that these are proofs, I need to get them back to them, etc. Printers that they usually when you get a bid, they should include a proof in that. If they don't, if they charge for it, they will specify what that is. So pay attention. Don't be surprised if all of a sudden you get a $30 charge for a proof that wasn't included in your printing bid on that. So any changes made at this stage, I want to tell you there's a cost to them. So when you get a blue line or proof from your printer, you are not rewriting your book. Promise me you will not do that. If you go back, and here's how that will go. Typically, I've seen charges, $12 per page, up to $30 per page. So you've got to ask yourself, can you live with this until the next edition? I mean, if it's blatantly awful, or maybe there has been breaking news and something has changed that you had in there, yeah, you want to change it. But if you're going to change somebody's name because all of a sudden you don't take a fancy to your name in your fictional book, from Samantha to Dakota, please don't do that. Namely, these people are probably in multiple pages, so the cash register is starting to mount up. Do it in the next edition on those things. So only essential changes. And what happens is it goes back to your interior designer, who will create the fix, resend the PDF of that page or pages to the printer to substitute in so you can re-see it again. You may decide, yes, I've seen it, it's in, I'm going to approve it, or you can ask for another proof. If you are on a time crunch, this is not helpful because it pulls you out of line. It's a high probability that you're queued to go to press. Maybe you get your proofs on Monday. Maybe they have on schedule that you need to have them back to them by Friday, and you decide to do a full reread and you start making some changes, and they go in the following week. You may be yanked out of the queue and go to the back of the line. So understand what you're getting into when you start making changes on proofs, and only do them with essential components, and just please be smart here. All right, another common term that you will hear is books in print. And that really ties back to your ISBNs. Now remember, you get ISBNs, or you should be getting ISBNs in the United States from R.R. Bowker. If you're outside of the United States, each country has a partnership, an affiliation with the ISBN gods, and you will be getting it from them. But I'm going to, I know that 75% of our listeners are from the United States, so their database is where that the ISBNs are carried and purchased from. You want to, when you identify what book title goes with which ISBN, you go back to your Bowker account, and you most likely you might have bought it through myidentifiers.com, which is Bowker's website for publishers to pick them up easily. It's much simpler to navigate. That you want to go back and register your title with the ISBN number. Why do you want to do that? Because if Joe Blow goes into XYZ bookstore and says, I heard this author, I really want to get this book, do you have it? Odds are they probably don't have it, but they can look it up in the database and look the title up and say, here it is with this ISBN. And if it's tied in with distribution, they can order it. So it's a smart thing to do. Take advantage of it as you move along. All right. Now, in your production of your book, I am very fond of using and inputting call-outs. A call-out is a reference to any text, And it could go to a figure, it could go to a table, it could go, it's different than a sidebar. I'll talk about sidebars in a sec. And it's placed, usually it's placed as close to the text that it was generated to support, complement, supplement, or duplicate. Now, what I do for my clients in a lot of our nonfiction books, and I want you to, if you can visualize reading a magazine article, you will very commonly see in magazines callouts. They're shaded, they have a little art graphic work around them, and they're designed to pop out, to get your attention. Usually they are word for word duplicated from the content that is either right close to it or maybe a few paragraphs above or below. I like to put it above as a tease to bring people along. So I'm looking for lines that the author has said that I would call chewy, or maybe they hit me with almost, oh my God, I can't believe this. People need to hear about this more. Or it could be for sometimes in memoirs, or in other types of books, something that maybe is very painful or revealing, or just an aha. I will make that a call out and make that pop out, and how I put it in. And every designer has something different. The designers I work with, they kind of know my style. So when I'm working with an author, I'm going along, and whatever I decide I want to duplicate it. And by the way, don't make these too long. Sentence is fine. Don't, you're not going to call out a paragraph. Pull an excerpt from it. And that I would just put start box, and then I would put the line I want duplicated in the call out, and I would put end box. And so what my designers do, and you have to make up how you're going to work with them, but what my designers do is they note as soon as they come across that in layout, aha, this is to be treated specially. We need to customize how this is going to look in the design, in the book. And of course, my authors approve that, how they're going to be looked. And then that will be treated. And you make a decision. Do you want them centered? Do you want them have lines around them? Do you want them have shaded? Do you want to have the line wrapped around the other content? How do you want it? And what I would suggest you do is to go into a bookstore or pull out recent books on your shelves and note if they do have any type of call out or specially treated material, and see what you like and what you don't like. And then that will help shape where you're going. But call-outs really do help customize and move your book along. So then there is all this, the bindery, and the bindery can get very confusing on, what you're doing, how you are going to do it in that. Is it going to be a perfect bound? Is it going to be a case bound? Case bound is also called hardback or just hard. So understand that what you want to do, I will tell you that most people say not to do hardbound books. But, we had a great show we did not too long ago with Tom Campbell, who was one of the principals with King Printing and one of our sponsors here for AuthorU, Your Guide to Book Publishing. And Tom, they do great work. And Tom really threw out a case about doing what we call a split run. Okay, a split run is you will do some in trade paper or perfect bound, trade paper, and you will do some in hardback. Now, we have a fun book right now that we're finally at print. I'm really excited about. It's called The Joy of Nursing by Juliana Adams. And Juliana's book we did a split run where we printed several hundred copies in hard copy. These were for close friends, pals, individuals who she really felt that they wanted to get the hard copy. And I'll tell you, when I really love a book and I want to keep it and I want to showcase it or I want to look it over, I always get the hard copy. But she also knew that she would be speaking and traveling with the book to the healthcare community and nurses in particular, that it would be easier to have a paper and it would be less expensive of that. So with that, here's the fun thing. We put the book up last week, and guess what? The hardback edition is already rated. It's got a little banner from Amazon, #1 new release. Now, how hot is that? That's very hot. So that's the kind of thing that you want to know about. That maybe that you ask for a print big from, this is an offset printer. What would it cost to get, 100, 200 copies of a copy in case-bound hard, whichever word you want to use, they know what that means, and then the balance in the paper version, and see how it works out. And it may just be great, and then you're going to need 2 ISBNs, because each edition, an audiobook is an ISBN, an ebook is an ISBN, a paper book is an ISBN, a hard-bound, case-bound book is an ISBN. And my suggestion is, before we go up to, I think that we're going to run into another break here again, that before we get up to this, is that you want to, my advice is, on your copyright page, is that you put all of your ISBNs, just, ID, is it hard, is it paper, is it is it audio, even if you haven't done the audio. Even if you got the book done, now we're doing the even if you don't have it yet, get it on the copyright page so it's done, and then you don't have to repeat and revise your copyright page. And with that, we're going to take another quick break. This is Judith Briles. It's AuthorU, your guide to book publishing, and we'll come up with some wrap-up tips for you.
This is your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, with your host, Dr. Judith Briles. And we'll be right back with more great information right after these.
The book shepherding concept is simple. The publishing world is changing, and so must you. You need an experienced shepherd and a guide to partner with you as you create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve your publishing goals. You can't do it alone without paying the price. You can spend your money creating a book that turns out to be so-so, or you can create a book that looks and feels classy, builds your brand, and is a financial success, a bestseller. It's your choice. You choose. You need the book shepherd. Publishing is riddled with obstacles, sometimes nightmares for the author. You don't need problems, you want solutions. Dr. Judith Briles will shepherd you through the maze and the chaos. At times, she's had to step in and rescue a book that has been sabotaged by a publisher, or by a publishing service provider, or sometimes even the author themselves. Judith Briles is the book shepherd if you want to create a book with no regrets. Give her a call today, 303-885-2207. That's 303-885-2207, or email her at judith@briles.com. By the way, Briles is spelled B-R-I-L-E-S. Follow Judith on Twitter at My Book Shepherd and on Facebook at The Book Shepherd.
One of the most important decisions you will ever make is your choice for printing your book. You are choosing a company which will be responsible for guiding you through the process and printing your book at a level of quality and detail that embraces your personal and creative needs. You want to choose a company that when your book finally arrives, you are delighted and ready to move on to the next level, and one that is customer focused. Choose King Printing Company and Addy Books to be that company that brings you to the next level. Go to kingprinting.com or call 978-458-2345 and ask for Tom Campbell.
At Total Printing Systems, customer service is our priority. We are located in Southern Illinois. Our employees have an average of 18 years experience and know that customer relationships are important to our continued success. We have been a short-run book printer for nearly 40 years and always stay at the forefront of technology. Our niche is from 1 to 5,000 copies. Today, we offer digital, black and white, and 4-color high-speed inkjet printing, a cost-effective way to introduce color into your short-run titles. We, of course, offer traditional offset printing as well. Bindery is done in-house, from adhesive case binding to PUR perfect binding to mechanical binding of all types, including side sewing. We provide warehousing, kitting, distribution, inventory management, a new print-on-demand facility, streaming browser-based ebooks, and bookstore. Call us at 1-800-465-5200 for a quote on your next book project. You can also visit our website at www.tps1.com.
Welcome back to your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. If you want to write and publish a book, if you want to be successful as an author, your guide to book publishing, everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask, is for you. Stay tuned and you'll hear about statistics, scenarios, and strategies on what to do now to get you published. So let's get back to the show. And here again is your host, Dr. Judith Briles.
Since I mentioned the copyright page, and it's clear to me I have a lot more to tell you all, but let me come to the copyright page because this is a boatload of information. So what you want to have on there's a lot of goodies that you need on this page. First of all, the copyright symbol, and so you want to have that on there and the year, followed by the year. Now, hint. If your book is going to be available from fall on, please, 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 please do not use the current year as your copyright. Do it the next year. And there's a couple of reasons why for doing that. So right now, our first edition of this is in the year 2016. We're talking springtime. If it was September, I would have copyright 2017. Why? Because I don't want to cheat my book. I don't want to date my book. And I was talking with someone who I met over the weekend, and I said, when did your book come out? And she said, in December. And it had in December of last year, and it had a 2/15 copyright date. She's already made the book old. Don't do that to yourself. So from fall on, put next year's year for your copyright date. You're protected. Don't worry about this. And then, and the other side is that if your vision is to be in a bookstore, they want new books. Now, they certainly carry evergreen books that sell and sell and sell and sell. But if you're trying to get your foot in the door and you came out with a book in December and you had 2/15 on it, and you show up on the Brighton Bonnie bookstore steps, and here it is, April of 2016, your book is old already. Now, bookstores often will take in books as newbies for the year before. But why cheat yourself? Wouldn't you rather have 2/17 and be able to carry it into 2/18? So think about that. The other thing is for libraries, they often will go back 3 years before they consider a book dated and old, unless, again, it's an evergreen. So don't shoot yourself in the pages here right away. So you want to have the symbol, you want to have the copyright year, you want to have it followed by your name or the publisher. My preference is always for the author to own it as you go along. And then you want to have the phrase, all rights reserved. So your example would be copyright 2/16, Jane Johnson, all rights reserved, period. Next, you're going to have the title, and then you're going to have a warning against anyone copying any of the content without written permission of the author and or publisher. And you want to have a disclaimer if it's appropriate. Now, when would you throw a disclaimer out there? A disclaimer could be if you're writing a healthcare related book, a nutrition book, a diet book. And those disclaimers just say that, the advice, even though it might be written by an MD or a nutritionist or, an RD, or it could be written by a financial planner, if it's a money book, anything that they, we're going to assume they know their stuff, but they're going to have a disclaimer in there that's to cover their tush, that they will advise you to make sure that you consult with your financial advisor before, imparting on any of the advice within. Be sure to consult with your healthcare providers before taking on this diet, that kind of thing. So that kind of disclaimer is to cover your tush. All right, then you're going to have maybe a paragraph, a short paragraph, maybe have it boxed so it pops out a little bit on how books could be purchased in bulk, that there are special discounts available for bulk purchases. And then you're going to give them information, maybe a contact name, name of their publisher, which could be you, an address, maybe an email, or a phone number to call to inquire about how to do that. We put on all our books on our copyright page. The cover was designed by, the interior was designed by. If there was a book consultant there, we put our editor. We could put kudos in here, and then we have the ISBNs. And certainly the publisher. And you know what? I often will put the publisher's symbol or their logo here, if they have one, which I'm going to assume they will. We put the ISBNs, and I mentioned in the last segment that put your E in your paper, in your heart if you have it, and if you're going to have an audio. Like I'm doing audios on all my books. I haven't done them for the next book, but it's coming. So it's now been allocated. And then if you go for an LCCN, which I sure hope you do, the Library of Congress number, that you will put that in. And then if you have a CIP number, that's called the Catalog in Publication Block. And there are special ways to go about of getting that. Lastly, you're going to have the edition it's the first, second, and how often that is illustrated is that if you ever look in the copyright page, you might see a 1098765431 type of thing. All right, and so if it's one that shows, that means it's the first edition. You could all write first edition, or you could write second edition. But another way they do it is the 1098, etc. And if you just see it ends at 5, 10987655. 75, that it means this is the 5th edition. And then lastly, on the very bottom, you want to say where it's printed. So printed in USA, printed in China, printed in Korea, printed in Canada, fill in the blank, and a lot of times people will add if it's acid-free paper or any of those other kinds of goodies that come along. So make sure that you pay attention to the copyright page, because there's a lot of information. You can certainly load it up in there. And then one of the goodies that you want to do is have your categories on it. So if for me, for example, on my latest book, I have reference, which is the master reference, and then I have writing, publishing, and then I added self-help. So some people go overboard. I would hold off on doing that, but that's something for you to think about. So the copyright page, critical, you need it. One of the differences you can tell instantly from a book that is in the self-published arena is that it doesn't have one, or it's so meek and minor, you're a little bit stunned that you're wondering what were they thinking of it. Now, a couple of other things in what we call front matter. So I mentioned back matter. Back matter would be those appendices about the author, how to work with the author, index. And by the way, if you have a nonfiction book, if your goal is to get it into a library, I would encourage you to invest in having an index done. Front matter is going to have your front matter would be your title page. It'll be your copyright page. If you have blurbs and endorsements, it's very, very common now to put those in the front matter, as in the opening page. When you open the book before the title page, you put it right in there. Shorten it up, even if you have them on the, maybe you have a couple, 1, 2, who knows, on your back cover. Maybe you pulled just a sentence out. Maybe it's a little bit more extended. Go ahead and duplicate it and drop it in. But, if you look at a lot of the books, the bestsellers, they will have the shout-outs. So you can call it people are talking, praise, endorsements, and whatever you come up with that's the right fit for you in your book. Label it with a header and then put it in back and front. And if you have a whole bunch, you could do, 4 pages which would be 2 whole pages back and front. Then you get into your title page. And then behind the title page is a copyright page. You could have a dedication page, possibly. And then you could have what's called a foreword. And a foreword is written by someone else. You don't write the foreword. And please spell it correctly. I can't tell you how many people spell it F-O-R-W-A-R-D. Forward March. It is F-O-R-E. W-O-R-D, forward. And I know, and I mentioned earlier in the show that Juliana Adams' book, The Joy of Nursing, which pulled down #1 new release on Amazon, which made me do a happy dance, I wrote the foreword for it. Now, after the foreword, there could be something called a preface. And I want to caution you, and then some people get into, an introduction. Now, in between all this, there's going to be a content. We no longer call it table of contents. We call it contents. Don't put everything. I've seen contents done with all the subtitles within a chapter. Please don't do that. Just the chapter title. And one of the things that you want to make sure that one of the last things you're going to be doing, there's 2 things. You want to make sure that your headers in your book are match. If you're putting your chapter titles in the headers, they actually say what your chapter title is. They match. And make sure your chapter titles in the contents of the book as it rolls out are the exact same wording and punctuation as on the content page. And the pages are right, of course. So that will be in there. Now, one of the issues is that I have pretty much gotten all my authors to stop doing introductions. And if it's so important, introducing the book, bringing it in, for heaven's sakes, make that chapter 1 and set it up. And it may be shorter than your other chapters, fine. But set it up that way because of the front matter, a lot of people will skim through and they just want to get in the book. And many, many, many times they will just skip the introduction thinking it's not really necessary, because they want to get into your book. And it may be critical core setup for your whole premise. So make sure that you deal with that. Now, the preface aside, before we wrap up here, the preface is kind of like notes from you. And it's not the introduction, but it could be, maybe the takeaways or how the setup of going into it. And a lot of times that preface and introduction could all be made into chapter 1. So look closely at what you're getting into, and don't add on more sections if it's not necessary. That's my key point here. All right, so we're going to do a quick wrap up. It's hard to believe. I want to let all of you know, if you want to spend 3 days with me, and they're fun, but they're intense. It's a deep dive. I go into gizmos and gadgets that will make your authoring life sing and soar. We get into marketing. We get into crowdfunding. We get into how to be an Amazon bestseller. We get into how to find those super fans and really develop them so they're your cheerleaders, and so much more. Judith Briles Unplugged, Book Publishing Unplugged, is slated for June 23rd to 25th. June in Denver, which is my home base, is great. I'd love to have you here. I keep it small. I never let more than 35 people attend. All your food's included. All information is on my website, thebookshepherd.com, thebookshepherd.com, and just click on events. Give me a call, and we can talk about you coming. And with that, we will say adieu and happy publishing. We'll see you next week.
Thank you for being a part of Your Guide to Book Publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Each week, a variety of publishing pros will deliver insights and strategies to take you, the author, to the next level. You'll learn tips and secrets on how to create, strategize, develop, publish, and achieve book publishing success by making one very simple change in your book's journey. How to avoid the publishing predators. How to create an author and book platform that rocks. Learn how to make a living with your words and your books. Learn how to publish a book that has no regrets, and so much more. For more information, check out AuthorU.org, where authors who want to be seriously successful go, and Judith's website, thebookshepherd.com. Then join us again here next week for more. It's your guide to book publishing. Everything you want to know but didn't know what to ask. With your host, Dr. Judith Briles. Brought to you by AuthorU and the Book Shepherd. Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on the Rockstar Radio Network.